My Lords, I thank the Noble Lord, Lord Beath, for his and all of the committee's work and his clear and comprehensive introduction today. And I thank the committee for taking on a difficult, indeed impossible task of trying to find ways within the limits of their mandate to prop up a tottering, failing system. I declare my position as Vice President of the Local Government Association for reasons I'll come back to later. Now, if we start with where the committee starts, in paragraph 3, says this is an uncodified and flexible system and quotes the Supreme Court from 2019. Our system remains sufficiently flexible to be capable of further development. I'm afraid there's a sense of a tone in there of protesting too much. The vehemency is a measure of desperation. We are stuck, rather visibly, somewhere between the 16th and the 19th centuries. And indeed, that's rather acknowledged in paragraph 5. The committee says the Constitution is vulnerable to erosion and challenge, relies to a considerable extent on individuals respecting and complying with constitutional norms. And I think the Noble Lord, Lord Newberger of Abbotsbury, very clearly set out how much that is not happening. And I'm going to begin with a practical example, because this week marks the 10th anniversary of the slaughter of Cecil the lion by a vile American trophy hunter in Zimbabwe. And that reminds me of a disgraceful evening in your Lordship's house, the 12th of September 2023. A bill which had gone through the elected House with the support of all sides. We saw in this House 12 former public schoolboys drive a cart and horses through what we have always been told is the respected traditions of the House, the unwritten, uncodified rules, to filibuster the Hunting Trophies Importation Prohibition Bill. The unwritten rules demonstrably were not worth the paper they were not written on. Now, the committee's report, coming back to that, refers to the primacy of the Prime Minister in safeguarding the Constitution. Well, there's an obvious glaring weakness there if our Constitution relies on one person. That is not the kind of way to organise a constitution, to organise a structure. And more than that, I'd point out the position of the Prime Minister. Our current Prime Minister, after a landslide election, has the support, his party won the support of 34% of people who voted in the general election last year. If we look at eligible voters, the Prime Minister has the support of 20% of eligible voters. And of course, we don't elect a Prime Minister, we elect MPs. And if we look at who elected our current Prime Minister, well, in the people of Holborn and St Pancras voted, and less than half of them voted for Sir Keir Starmer. We're putting all of the weight of our Constitution on this one person, on those incredibly fragile foundations. Now, is it any wonder that we had lots of people in your Lordship's House, members of your Lordship's House, commented on this? At the start of this year, there was a Channel 4 poll. 52% of 13 to 27-year-olds said the UK would be in a better place with a strong leader who does not have to bother with Parliament and elections. I'd remind your Lordship's House that's where we are today. As the Noble Lord, Lord Garnier said, a wide range of people now regard the idea of coming into Parliament as poison. That's a measure of the problems of where we are. Now, how about instead we start to think much more broadly, and I absolutely don't fault the committee in not doing this. I'm sure they didn't regard this as their mandate, but having a proper, modern, democratic, functional constitution. That's where we have to go, because it's not what we have now. Now, we can see the impact of this in the state of the nation. We can even say in the state of this building. It's easy to blame individuals, and I do very often, but why do we keep having failing government after failing government after failing government? We have to look at the constitutional institutional structures. Now, I'm going to come to a more specific point again, Chapter 4 of the committee's report about the Council of Nations and Regions. The committee says the government should set out who within the UK government is responsible for the Council of Nations and Regions. Well, this is clear that this is being taken so seriously, we have no idea who's responsible. Something that's going to meet every 6 months and bring together elected mayors who represent some parts of the country. And again, we're going to see elections, first past the post elections, with elected mayors who may indeed well be elected with 25–30% of the vote. And that's who's going to be speaking for their regions. And these are devolution plans imposed from Westminster. And I'm going to come to a very specific point here, and it's interesting that this entire report makes no mention at all of local councils, who are at least rather more representative local organisations. They're not included in the council and the regions. And I point to a ministerial statement in June when the government declared that councils must have a leader and cabinet model. This is Westminster directing how local councils should work. This is supposed to ensure local communities will have the right mechanism to engage with their council. But this is a question to the noble lady, the Minister, directly. The people of Bristol in 2022, the people of Sheffield in 2021, through a grassroots campaign and a referendum of the whole city, decided they want committee structures in their councils. Is the government really going to overrule that basic piece of democracy? Yes, I hear probably from the Lib Dem front bench, and I fear they may be right. However, what I am going to say is, having just been at the Local Government Association conference in Liverpool, I can warn the noble lady, the Minister, and the government that the plans also to abolish the district councils, the form of government closest to the people, there is going to be resistance. People are going to fight. So I come to my concluding sentence. We can't rely on good chaps suddenly discovering a sense of responsibility and honesty. Institutional structures do not support good chap behaviour. The Select Committee is trying to valiantly shore up something that's not working. We need to think about getting a modern, functional, democratic constitution for the UK.